Hello and welcome to your daily dose of Satoshi's news. Today's date is Wednesday, the 3rd of September 2025, the year BSV comes alive. Branch your threads, expand your mind with treechat.ai or your post put on chain. Right, let's see what we've got today. Today's show is going to be called The Beast Has Been Released. So I'm just going to explain that by going through the figures because the profitability has been very, very carefully managed over the last 4 or 5 years, probably even more than that, where it's been like sometimes 40, 50, 60% less profitable to mine on BSV than BTC, which means none of the shitcoiners have been mining it. But now the profitability has changed, and I will show you why I think it's being carefully managed, because there are other metrics to look at. But this is huge because the beast has been released. That's what this show is going to be on. So I'll explain that by going through the figures. They're looking really exciting there. We've got a couple of posts here from CSW that we'll go through. Got some 365 days of Bitcoin history. And then we'll finish with a Kellan Schweller countdown. Right, let's get into it.
Satoshi, like a cowboy in the West, riding on the blockchain that they call the very best. 1 million strong, and transactions flying free. Just wait for the Terra node, you'll surely see.
Alrighty, here we go. Welcome to The Beast Has Been Released. I'm looking forward to this. Right, so it all stems from my inspired post here, when we're saying it's currently 17.9% more profitable to mine on SV over BTC. So I'm going to explain the figures here on CoinDance. So although the profitability has just dropped a little bit now, look, but it's still more profitable to mine on SV, even if it is 0.7. Like I said, it's usually been, you're usually mining BSV at a 40, 50, 60% comparable loss. Whereas suddenly this has gone into profit. And the profitability has been very, very carefully managed over the last, well, ever since BSV started, actually probably since 2018. I've seen the profitability going up and down. I've seen the hash rate fluctuating. So I'm just like, oh, right. So the price is not, well, the cabal have been manipulating the price. They've been artificially suppressing BSV through their delisting BSV campaign and stealing all the genuine Bitcoin from all the exchanges customers and using those supplies to artificially suppress the price to then spin the narrative that, oh, the market has decided it's a load of shit, it's a fraud, Craig Wright's a scammer, all this crap and all this nonsense they come out with. So in order to counter that, it looks to me like something or someone else has been like, right, well, you're going to manipulate the price on that side. Well, let's just manage the profitability on this side. You know, let's make sure that, like, you know, none of these miners are mining it, because even if they are big mining pools, if they're mining something where it's 40, 50, 60% more profitable to mine on BTC, if you wanted BSV, you would mine BTC and then sell the BTC for BSV. You've got no excuse to actually mine BSV at a 60% comparable loss. So it just means that all the shitcoiners are not mining it, because only those who actually genuinely comprehend that BSV is the original and genuine Bitcoin, they're just like, don't really matter. There's no point in mining shitcoins. They're all economically and fundamentally worthless. And there's data can only be commoditized one way. We're just simply going to have to, you know, take this one on the chin, if you like. But the profitability being managed means that you're shooing all of the shitcoiners off the chain, so that they're purposely not mining it, so they're not holding any. So we know that when that management effectively is released, then we know that it is all systems go. That's how we know. And so you can actually see, so it's 0.7% more profitable to mine on SV. But let me show you why and how I think it's being done. So this is global hash rate, 7 days, 24 hours. Right, so this here is the Gregcoin mining. And other miners, again, no one knows who they are. Are they one? Are they lots of separate miners, like they're sort of like trying to indicate here? Or are they like numerous small miners all acting as one? That's what I potentially think. And Other Miners here has just got 6.94% on there. So if they wanted to make Gregcoin more profitable, what they could do is just simply reduce their hash rate on the BTC network, and it would be more profitable to mine. And then they could just increase it to make it less profitable to mine. And obviously, I mean, the amount of hash rate on BTC compared to all the other coins is absolutely massive. So you would only have to increase or decrease Other Miners' hash rate on the network by like a very, very small amount, and you can make it more or less profitable to mine. So I personally think, in my opinion, that it's Other Miners that have been managing the profitability of these networks since 2018, so that the shitcoiners aren't mining it, whereas now Other Miners are letting them get a look in because it's now more profitable to mine on SV. And I would say that whoever these Other Miners are, and bearing in mind, at some stages, this was like a few years ago now, I saw Other Miners and they had 70% of the hash rate on BTC at one stage. It was absolutely massive. Like, bearing in mind that BTC are literally like all the world's hash rates, you know what, it's got like 99% of all the world's hash rate on Gregcoin. And then suddenly Other Miners out of the blue, you know, for a day or two, has got like 70% of the hash rate. And all of these miners, I checked them out, their hash rate hadn't actually changed. They had literally just lost the percentage of coins they were winning because Other Miners had like 60 to 70% of the hash rate on the network. It was absolutely staggering. Like, absolutely staggering. And then it's kind of like wound itself down. So this goes to show you that there is an absolutely enormous amount of hash rate that is simply not being used and not put on the network, that is being held in reserve, which makes me think the profitability is being managed. So that Other Miners could just, now we know that they could easily get up to 70-80% on BTC. They're purposely lowering the hash rate, which actually gives them even more ammunition. Because if they wanted to make it more profitable to mine on BSV, they could just increase their hash rate on Gregcoin just a little bit, then just a little bit more, then a little bit more, making it less and less profitable to mine. So it's been carefully managed, and now the profitability is being released. It's being released from the shackles by someone who's just like, oh, there you go, we'll just open the cage door a little bit, you know. It's coming, and it's, you know, I would say coincidental timing with Terranode and everything coming out. But let's have a quick look at the blocks coming through. I think I've looked at these, just relatively small ones at the moment, no 100 megabyte blocks. But look at this on BitInfo charts. Look, so SV in second place behind Ethereum, closing in. Ethereum with just a 40.7% of the entire market's transactions volume on its network, and BSV Bitcoin with 22%. 22% chomping at the bit, and XRP is pretty much stuck at 677,000. So BSV has now got 30% more than that, around 30% more than XRP, which is ahead of, you know, this Gregcoin shitcoin. So we've now got a coin here which has literally got, and bearing in mind we're talking about what, a $4 trillion market here. Let's just have another look at the overall market capitalization on Live Coin Watch. $3.7 trillion. So of a $3.7 trillion market, this one coin in second place behind Ethereum that has got a 500, was it 500 billion? Yeah, $500 billion market cap. A $500 billion market cap is literally being chased off the number one spot by BSV Bitcoin in second place with 22% of the entire market, which is $3.7 trillion worth. It's got 22% of that market's transaction volume on its network. Like, it's absolutely massive. So that's 914,032. We'll just have a quick look at that on a Watson chain. Yeah, 917,635. So the transaction volume correlates there. And again, that's going to be affecting the profitability. And this has been rising all morning. I've been following this from around sort of like 890,000, and then I think the highest I saw this morning was 922,000. And I was like, wow, is this just simply going to continue? And then the sort of profitability came down again. But while we're here, let's have a look at dashboard stats. Mining stats is what we want. 24 hours. Oh, look at this, TAL. So TAL.com, which is SV node, 22%. TAL Terra node, 18.3%. SA100 in third, 16.34. Kuv, 16.35. QD Link, 14.38. Gorilla Pool, wow, they're going up, 9.15. And Mining Dutch, is normally around 0.62, has now got 2.61 on its network. But open as soon as Terra node becomes open source, I think, and if all the figures move in the right way, like if the transactions come on the network, the hash rate then comes over, the miners then start dumping their own bags, like quietly trying to get it done, thinking, oh crikey, I hope nobody notices, but it's an open ledger, it's an open book, you can see who's doing it. And then everybody comes in, the traders come in, and like literally the market goes absolutely mad. And this is the start. This is the start. This is the release of the beast. Massively exciting. Massively exciting. I don't think I ever screenshotted when I saw other miners with like 70% of the hash rate over on Greycoin. Yeah, I think it would have been like 2018 at one point. I mean, I literally couldn't believe it. I was just like, this is massive. A bit like looking at other miners here on CoinDance over at Bitcoin SV. There's just like grey patch because they don't want you to see what the actual real mining chart looks like. They're just like, yeah, we're just going to make it look like a piece of shit. Like, there's only like 2 miners on it and nobody thinks it's anything. But this is the real spread. This is the real mining of it, and they just don't want people to see it. So what I'm saying is, the beast has been released. Watch this space. Stay tuned, hit the like button, press subscribe. You're not going to want to miss all the shenanigans that happen soon. But this is all part of the Kellenschweller countdown. This is happening. The beast has been released. It's massive. Honestly, I can't stress enough the significance of the change of these figures that we're looking at. So let's get on to one of CSW's posts here. He said, and this is one of his pinned posts, he said, I'd like anyone to point to a single thing, one thing that couldn't have been handled under common law. And don't give me the tired old chorus of revenue, taxation, administration, and all that bureaucratic fluff. Strip that out, what's left? What precisely required legislation other than the vanity of politicians needing to justify their own existence? Common law worked. It worked because it was stable, predictable, and deeply rooted in reason and precedent. It didn't need to be reinvented itself every parliamentary session. People knew the law. A first-year law student could know the lot of it. Principles, not statutes, governed. Judges interpreted, not invented. Rights were secured because they were grounded in permanence, not in political fashion. The problem began the moment we surrendered to the idea that we need change. Well, actually, it's happened when high treason was committed, sovereignty was surrendered, and the monarch deposed on the 1st of January 1973 is when it happened. But he says the problem began the moment we surrendered to the idea that we need change. Change for what? For whose benefit? Well, exactly. Once legislation became the default, the law was no longer a shield. It became a weapon wielded by fractions, committees, and careerists who profit from uncertainty. Every statute passed is another complication, another distortion, another bite taken out of the coerced that once made the law accessible to ordinary people. Well, I think people need to know the difference between legislation, acts, and statutes. So, just for those on my show who don't know the difference, the only law that applies to the common man, the common people, is common law. And the common law is very simply act in honour, do no harm, cause no injury or loss. That is it. That's common law. But because government is so big, they need a way to sort of try and regulate themselves. And this is how they divide it up. So legislation that they write for themselves tells them how they are going to treat a specific situation. You know, if a situation occurs, how important is it? What priority is it going to get? Like, how are they going to treat that situation? That's what legislation is. Yeah, or how they're going to treat it. An act is how they're going to behave towards it. Like, if a circumstance or a situation occurs, like, this is how we are going to act if this situation happens. You know, this is how we're going to behave towards it. So that's what an act is. And then a statute are the laws that Parliament hold themselves accountable to. And if Parliament break their statutes, they can literally end up with a fine, forfeiture, or imprisonment. But acts, statutes, and legislations do not apply to us. They only apply to public servants, and particularly those in Parliament, because that's how they regulate themselves. So literally, it doesn't apply to us at all. That's only government. And so, yeah, there isn't really anything that common law can't fix, because it's kind of like, well, have you caused any harm, injury, or loss? Is there a contract? And if there's no contract, there's no obligation. And you know, if it's not voluntary, then it's tyranny, pretty much. That's it. So have you caused any harm, injury, or loss? No. Is there a contract? No. Is this voluntary? Well, no. You don't have to do it then. That's literally it. So anyway, I digressed. He said, tell me what problem, real, not imagined, could not have been solved with the framework of common law. Well, exactly. Contract, property, tort, crime, these foundations were already there. If someone trespassed, injured, defrauded or killed, the law had recourse. If men wanted to preserve land, they had the tools, contracts, covenants, corporations. They didn't need government to rob others on their behalf. They didn't need parliamentary tinkering. I will go further. I don't believe we ever needed legislation at all, except perhaps to decide matters of taxation or what. And even that is debatable. War could be funded voluntarily. Taxation could be handled within agreed structures. Everything could be resolved under the steady hand of common law. So I ask again, name one thing common law could not have handled. Well, exactly. Common law can handle everything. Yeah. So yeah, I think he's spot on there. And let's get on to this next one then. So, yeah, Ross he replied to Ross Thurston in this. He said, they tell us they're winning now. They stand on their balconies of fraud and shout it to the world. Look at our ETFs. Look at our government support. Look at how legitimate we've become. They dress themselves in the robes of regulators and bankers and call it triumph. But what are they celebrating? A funeral, because the thing they had paraded around in chains is not what was born. It is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin was digital cash. That's simple. Hand to hand, person to person. It was the uncompromised act of two individuals agreeing, settling, transacting without a priesthood in between. It was not designed to curry favour with the governments or to bow before financial institutions. It was not a supplicant begging for validation from the very structures it was created to transcend. Bitcoin was and is digital cash. That is the spine of the thing. That is its integrity. So if you think you're winning because you've sold out that vision, because you've shackled it to products built for speculators, because you've hollowed it out and filled it with the perfume of state approval, you don't know what winning is. You've traded the core of the carcass. You've taken digital cash and turned it into a carnival trick, a ticker symbol for funds that have nothing to do with the idea itself. I would rather hold to the truth of the system than clap for its imposter. I would rather keep the integrity intact than turn it into a lie that never was. A lie built to appease bankers and bureaucrats. Winning is not applause from the state. Winning is not the blessing of regulators. Winning is being true to what was created. A system of digital cash that works because it's real, because it's honest, because it does what it says. Better to stand alone with the truth than to sit at the banquet of falsehood. Better to be excellent in the integrity of the design than to chase validation from the very powers that corrupt. If Bitcoin is to mean anything, it cannot be sold. And if sold, then the buyer owns only a corpse dressed in finery. Winning, in the only sense that matters, is refusing to sell out. Absolutely. And he's continued here, having a pop at Lop. He said, why did you sell out, Lop? That's Jameson, Lop. Why did you trade the hard spine of principles for the soft comfort of corporate investment? You only sang the hymn of scale, or building something that could bear the weight of a world's transactions, and then you clipped its wings to please the suits. You dressed compromise as innovation and called it maturity. But let's call things by their names. Scaling was never meant to be a bargaining chip for the venture capital. It was not designed to be mutilated into a product palpable for boardrooms. It was the foundation, the very thing that made Bitcoin more than a speculative toy. Scale was integrity. Scale was honest. Scale was the promise that the system could be digital cash for everyone, everywhere, not just a boutique asset for gamblers. And you sold it. You made peace with the very force that gutted the idea. You let them turn it into a financialized carcass and parade as a victory while bleeding out its soul. Was it worth it? Was the applause of investors sweeter than the truth of the design? Did corporate handshakes feel better than standing alone with the system as it was meant to be? Winning is not measured in corporate partnerships or government nods. Winning is fidelity to the idea. Excellence in execution, integrity in action. When you sell that out, you don't just betray a protocol, you betray the very definition of winning. So again, why? Why trade truth for spectacle? Scale for scraps? Why sell out? I'll tell you why, because he's part of the deep state, mate. That's what it is. The deep state don't want freedom. The deep state want total control in order to fulfill their extremist religious prophecy that's 3,000 years old, and they're all in on it, which is actually really quite scary. And Ross Thurston replied to that and said, let's be real, BTC is for fiat profits. CSW said, you mean the Ponzi? And Ross has said, yeah, absolutely, the Ponzi. It is for a Ponzi. So we're awesome there. Ross knows it, as does CSW. That's great. Right, 20 minutes. That's gone real quick. Right, 3rd of September. Do you know what? I literally haven't got anything for 3rd of September. Like, nothing. So if anybody wants to send me something of substance, something of interest that maybe happened on this day in Bitcoin's history, even last year, even today, that'd be fine. We'll put it in. That'd be great. Right, let's move on to the Kellenschweller Countdown. I've had loads of people message me saying, please, can you tell me what the Kellenschweller Countdown is? I promise I won't tell anybody. You know, but I've heard you mention this numerous times. I've seen other people going on about, what on earth is it? You are simply gonna have to stay tuned to find out, because I will reveal what the Kellenschweller Countdown is about, but I will only tell you when the event happens. Well, I'll only tell you if the event happens when it does. Actually, no, I'll only tell you when the event happens if it does, is what I meant. So it might not happen at 0, but what we'll do is we'll count down to 0, and then we'll count up and like just see how far off the mark we really were. But it's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. Has to be epic. So remember, stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, press like. You're not going to want to miss any of the shenanigans between now and then. So until then, be aware, take care, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
The king still has one more move.